Welcome to Season 2 of This Week in Lacrosse, the show that brings you highlights and news from boys high school lacrosse around the country in 10 minutes or less. I'm Mike Loveday, founder of LaxRecords.com. Let's get into this week's show. All right, welcome to this week's show, everybody. As you may have noticed already, I'm trying something new with This Week in Lacrosse this season. Gonna try doing it live. It could be a horrible mistake and a train wreck, but I wanted to give it a shot. I thought it'd be a little bit more fun. Last year, the show was pre-recorded. I did it here in my office, and it just kind of felt very solitary for obvious reasons. And one of the things I like about social media and I love about the lacrosse community is kind of the back and forth and the conversation. And YouTube kind of, enables that conversation to happen. Like you guys can leave comments and reactions, and then I can see them. The program that I'm using actually allows me to incorporate some of that. Don't know how that exactly works because I haven't been able to test that part of it yet, but we're going to see this together. So you guys are going to get to see this show live or on demand if you're watching it later, warts and all. But I thought it'd be fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And seeing as it's March 1st, and this is episode 1 of season 2 of This Week in Lacrosse, thought it'd be fun to actually unveil the top 5 of the brand new LaxRecords Top 25 rankings. That's going to be released Monday, March 2nd at 5 a.m. Central Time. Now, I decided to do rankings this year, honestly, after 10 years. I was doing them, and then I didn't do them last year. That was the first time I hadn't done them because before that, just to give you a quick little history and rundown, like I used to do rankings for ESPN back when they had ESPN High School and we did the Fab 50. That was a beast, doing 50 teams. But then after that, I did the U.S. Lacrosse Top 25 and the Mid-Atlantic region rankings for many, many years. And then for the past 2 years, I had done the 3D Rising state-by-state rankings. So I had a lot of experience with it. And so when I did, decided to focus entirely on LaxRecords last year, just decided not to do it. Just wanted to try something different. And, this year I kind of felt that, it was time. I've done a lot on LaxRecords. And for me, the ranking stuff is really brings, for me, I guess it kind of brings the country together a little bit, if so to say. Like you get people talking about a team like Torrey Pines out west or St. Ignatius Prep out of San Francisco, and you kind of lump them in the same conversation with like a Chaminade or St. Anthony's or a Calvert Hall. To me, that's kind of fun because you don't get that with local rankings and local newspapers or whatever. You kind of get to see these teams kind of, get mashed up and put together. And to me, that's the fun of high school sports, the high school lacrosse. So, we're going to do that at the end of this show where I unveil the top 5. But before I get there, I do kind of want to recap some of the big games that have already happened in the young season so far. Like I know most of you probably haven't started your season yet, but, there's been some really incredible matchups in California, Florida, and Georgia already this season. But for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to focus on teams in the region top 10s. So hopefully you guys checked out LaxRecords.com and the preview package. I'll link them below. If you haven't, you can check out all those region top 10s that were released over the past about week and a half. So kicking it off, I want to start with the battle of defending champions. This is the beauty of a live show, warts and all. Georgia defending champion Walton traveled down to Florida and took on Ponte Vedra, who is not only Florida's defending champion, but now is the heavy favorite heading into the season to win the brand new Class 2A classification this year. So the caveat is both teams kind of came to this game a little bit banged up. Dylan Hess out of Ponte Vedra, he is expected to miss a large chunk of the season, but is expected to be back kind of towards the end of the year. And I know Walton was missing quite a few players kind of heading into this game. So, but, even with that, if you thought that the game wasn't going to live up to the hype, you would have been wrong. The game was, we're going to show some highlights here. The game was tied 2-2 at halftime, kind of what you would expect out of these two teams. But it looked like in the third quarter, Ponte Vedra was going to run away with it. They went up 7-3 in the third quarter. But, Walton battles like a champion. With about 7 minutes to go, about 6 or 7 minutes to go in the third quarter, they made a run. They went scored 4 unanswered goals to tie the game. And that was, the tie game came with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. But Ponte Vedra, again, a game of champions. This is what you would expect. They answered with 2 straight goals in less than a minute to go up 9-7. The final few minutes, they were tense. This game was streamed live by someone with Walton. I'll link to that video below. You're going to have to kind of ignore the wind. You can see some of the jerseys here. They are blowing in the wind. Like, it was very windy, very cold in Florida at that time. So with the final few minutes, the Sharks defense really still stepped up, held Walton to one more goal. The Ponte Vedra offense added two more, and the Sharks of Florida came out on top in an 11-8 exciting game. So now kind of want to head out west because I want to give some huge kudos to Loyola Los Angeles and its brand new head coach, Jimmy Burrell. Burrell came over from Palos Verdes. He's had a very good career, very stellar career at Palos Verdes. Loyola Los Angeles has been one of the better teams in California and out west for, the better part of the last decade. So it was very exciting to see them kind of almost get together and match up. And Loyola Los Angeles, they wasted no time kicking off their season in style. They scheduled 3 top 10 teams in their first 3 games of the season, and they play 4 of the top 10 teams in its first 5. Loyola's season started with a 13-12 overtime win over Foothill Santa Ana. Alex Horowitz scored the game-winning goal in overtime to lift the Cubs to a 13-12 win. This is the beauty of live and not a real studio. My cat jumps up and wants to be part of it. But Horowitz actually scored 3 goals in that Cubs victory. So after that, they headed north up to the San Francisco area. They took on number 2, St. Ignatius Prep, and number 3, Sacred Heart Prep. Now, you could say that the ranking order played out, I guess, as I would have expected, considering this is the order that I ranked the teams in, because both St. Ignatius Prep and Sacred Heart Prep came out on top. We're going to try not to spill my coffee. So, it wasn't too unexpected ranking-wise, like you would expect those teams to come out on top. But, Loyola, they now travel to Oaks Christian on Wednesday for a break. I don't think that's really the way Oaks Christian would look at it, but considering they take on number 1 Torrey Pines on Saturday, you just kind of got to look at their first 5 games and be very, very impressed with what Coach Burrell and them put on so far this season. And, kind of looking even down the road a little bit, they play Episcopal Dallas, which is, I think, the number 2 team in the Southeast region, kind of in the middle of the season. And then they play Dallas Jesuit and Highland Park, both out of Texas. And both those teams are top 10 contenders, or if they're not already in the top 10 to start the season. So, they go everywhere and are playing some of the best teams. And, you even look at they play Palos Verdes, they play a Harvard Westlake. So it's very interesting to see what they're going to put together for this season. So I think they got exciting things brewing out there in Los Angeles. But, I think we're kind of heading into the 10-minute mark. I'm looking at 7:47. I promise you guys 10 minutes. So we're going to count this thing down and unveil the top 5 of what will be the top 25, which, again, launches tomorrow, March 2nd at 5 a.m. Central. So starting with number 5, we're going with Brunswick School out of Connecticut. The Bruins have 13 players already committed to Division I programs, and this is from a team that went 16-3 last season. The Bruins boast several players that Inside Lacrosse has among the top 100 in both the class of 2020 and 2021. The talent is going to be put to the test, to say the least, because in addition to their conference schedule, they play with Deerfield Academy. They also have road games against St. Paul's out of Maryland, Darien out of Connecticut, and games against Haverford School out of Pennsylvania and the Hill Academy out of Canada. Coming in at number 4. Chaminade out of New York. The Flyers have 17 players already committed to college and returning for head coach Jack Moran. The season, again, these teams don't waste any time. It starts off with Delaware Power Salesianum. They have early games against Massapequa, road games against Ward Melville, their traditional rival St. Anthony's, and that's all before April 10th. They also have St. Ignatius Prep, previously mentioned, out of San Francisco, Gonzaga out of D.C., Darien, Manhasset, Del Barton. They're going to end up playing St. Anthony's twice. It is going to be a tremendous season for the Flyers. Speaking of St. Anthony's, they're coming in at number 3. The Friars boast a lineup of 19 players committed to college, including the number 1 player in the nation, Brennan O'Neill. Got to see him in person last year at the Geico Lacrosse Showcase. He's fun to watch. You can actually see some of the players on the sideline. He's an entertaining guy. But he's not the only number 1 player on the Friars lineup. Number 1 junior, according to Inside Lacrosse, Andrew McAdory. Both those guys are committed to Duke. Blue Devils got a good couple guys coming in. But they also have games against Del Barton, St. Ignatius Prep, Seton Hall Prep, which, is literally just outside the Mid-Atlantic top 10. A lot of coaches in New Jersey actually think they might be the best team in New Jersey this season. They also play Yorktown and New Canaan out of Connecticut. And, of course, they're going to play Chaminade. Now, what I always find interesting is Chaminade and St. Anthony's. They seem to go back and forth, winning the conference championship year to year. And the last time St. Anthony's won back-to-back titles was 2011 and 2012. So I think it's going to be a really exciting year to watch on Long Island. All right, coming in at number 2, we got Culver Academy. Probably not too surprising for many of you, but the Eagles, they boast a Division I lineup. Like I think all their guys are going Division I. Some of their guys that aren't actually in the starting lineup are still going Division I. They were co-number 1 by Inside Lacrosse last season. And, it's not surprising they're going to be in contention for the number 1 ranking again in 2020. They play a schedule that's going to include teams like Boys Latin. They play McDonough. They play Harvard School. They play Gonzaga. A couple lineups we won't know until later is they play in the Midwest Lacrosse Challenge and the National Prep Lacrosse Showcase. National Prep Lacrosse Championship. So it's going to be interesting to see what those lineups will give them as well. Like, I'm sure there'll be top teams in each of those categories. So they're going to play more than just what's on their schedule normally right now. They boast the number 1 attackman in the nation, Owen Hiltz, headed to Syracuse, along with highly rated junior Ty English out of North Carolina. They got a good lineup, to say the least. So the only team that I thought could actually take over the number 1 from Culver Academy, I actually went back and forth with these twos, and this is probably not going to be a big surprise for many of you, but it's Calvert Hall out of Maryland. Now, the Cardinals already made history last season whenever they won the MIAA A Conference Championship for the 3rd consecutive year, but the Cardinals also appear to be the favorite to win it all in 2020. That could be a blessing or a curse because McDonough came into last season as the favorite to win it, and obviously that didn't happen. But everybody seems to like the Cardinals, and you can see why. Head coach Brian Kelly returns 25 players, including 20 who are already committed to play in college. That includes their leading scorer, Daniel Kelly, who actually could become the program's all-time leading scorer by the end of this season. The Cardinals play some of the best teams in the nation, honestly, just by virtue of their schedule. They're going to play Boys Latin. They're going to play McDonough. They're going to play a Gilman team that just missed the playoffs last year, but also got a new head coach in John Nostrand, who is from Haverford School and is not unaccustomed to winning, to say the least. So I think Gilman's going to really be a team to watch this year because they got a pretty good lineup. But this is about the Cardinals. So in addition to their MIAA A Conference schedule, they're going to take on IMG's national team, Hill Academy, Conestoga, which is going to be one of Pennsylvania's best teams this year, and St. Christopher's out of Virginia. So to say that Calvert Hall has a heck of a schedule in their lineup is a bit of an understatement. So I'm actually over the 10-minute mark now, so don't see any questions quite yet. So I know this was the first episode of this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure we're going to kind of play with this lineup here a little bit in the future. So that's it for episode 1 of season 2 of This Week in Lacrosse. Tune in next Sunday for the live show. You can find out when I'm going live by following me on Twitter and Instagram at LaxRecords, or you'll be able to catch the show on demand at youtube.com/LaxRecords or facebook.com/LaxRecords. Everybody, have a great week.